We are back on Night School, second half hour, and Jim Miller with us from Chicago, from Hawthorne, of course, and looking forward to Saturday's Illinois Derby, and looking forward, Jim, to some thoughts on this topic in terms of the modern betting menu and helping people maximize a small or smaller bankroll. Some thoughts to people that may only have a couple of double sawbucks to spend on an afternoon.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this quite a bit throughout the course of the day when I saw that this was your topic. And I think really one of the most important things is having realistic expectations for what you're going to do with your small bankroll. You can't come into a day with $20 saying, I'm going to leave with $2,000. If you can come into the day saying, okay, I'm going to play smart, I'm going to play races where there are horses that I like, and I know Jeremy was talking earlier about really kind of maybe shrinking your bets down to races where you really have a focus on, that may be the route to go. And if you can have the mentality that I just want to turn a profit, and then you start to work from there and build up from there, and I think that's something where the thought process really initially comes in and is the most important thing of the process. Because you look at a lot of the tracks, and Hawthorne being one of them, we've lowered minimums to 20 cents on all our multi-race wagers. So you can have action throughout the course of the day, be it in pick threes, pick fours, or place pick nine, something along those lines. You just have to be smart about how you play your races and how you're going to use that small bankroll. But I really think in the end, you just have to have the proper expectations going into things for what you're looking to come out of the day with.
In terms of those that have a smallish budget to apply, I suppose that many of the same discussion points and identification of your handicapping qualities applies here, because if you're solid at identifying win candidates and have a smallish budget, well, then some daily doubles and pick threes very well may be your best friend, as opposed to trying to find second and third place finishers behind a win candidate. And there again, if you are somebody that is better at grouping the horses that are candidates within a race to line up, and you can't necessarily identify which one is a better win candidate than a couple of others, well then maybe you are better off with a 50-cent try, and whether it's a key or, I see some people are arguing against boxing, that's a diluted opinion. I don't necessarily always agree with that. I think it's circumstantial, but I think, again, like anything else in this game, if you're in touch with what you do well, it'll help you better utilize what you've got in your pocket.
Right, and I think you really have to play to your strengths. Like you stated, if you have a horse that you love, that this is a horse that you believe is going to win, then what you want to do is work around maybe those multi-race wagers where, for example, a lot of tracks are either $1.50 or, for our example at Hawthorne, we're 20 cents for those wagers. So my focus always comes on pick three and pick four wagers, where I can take that ability to take that single, and then you can maybe expand around that single a little bit, and it's still not going to cost you too much money. But for me, the way I want to handicap, I really do focus on trying to find that winning horse. I think it's so often too many things can happen where if you're trying to key a horse underneath in a gimmick or anything along those lines, it's really tough. So I think the focus is trying to find, at least for me, trying to find that horse who's going to come in on top and then working your wagers around that. But my main wagers usually are the pick fours, and when I'm posting tickets, I'll focus on that. And then a wager for somebody who may be new to the track, who you want to follow along for the day, is a wager like the place pick nine, where you're looking at a horse that, okay, you may be focusing to win on it, but if the horse doesn't win and you're running second, you can carry on through a wager like that. And we ran into a great example about this just a couple of days ago. We had a $3,000 carryover in the place pick nine. Throughout the course of the day, 8 of the 9 races, the chalk ran 1-2. And still, because of that carryover, for a 20-cent ticket, it paid over $160. So that was one of those things where if you have horses you can key on, I would prefer to work around those wagers, like you said, either work through doubles, work through a pick three or a pick four, because I find it so hard, especially with tries and supers, to try to key those horses or work around those horses underneath, especially when you're working with a smaller bankroll.
Jim, I got a question here from Sneedham on the chat applet, and he follows you on Twitter and is wondering how often are you able to get your plays down, the ones that you're suggesting? Do you play them all? Do you play a certain percentage? Give everybody a feel.
For me, I play all of mine, actually, and it's one of those where you'll see they're limited tickets. I mean, I've gone as low at times as playing a 40-cent pick four, and then there's other times I'll go upwards of $24, $28. Things along those lines, but I'll post those tickets on there and I'll play all of them. And like I said, it's going into it with the proper expectations. The other day I had a $10.80 ticket that returned $24. Well, it doesn't look like it's that huge in the end, but it's a positive, and that's what you need to focus on. So for me, I'll play all my tickets, and because it is a smaller bankroll type of thing, the biggest amount that I'll play in a day is $50 or $60, and that kind of follows right along the lines of our topic tonight.
How much do you spend against multis, against the pick X's, threes, and pick threes, pick fours?
Well, usually for me, for a pick four, because we have those 20-cent minimums, I'll try to stay between $10 and $20. I don't want to go any further than that. I usually will try to find a single. It's those sequences where you can't find a single or you don't feel as confident that makes it a little bit tougher. But for me, especially if I have a single, I'll take that single and use that ability to spread in another race and then just hope for a price somewhere else.
Well, and one of the things that's being asked, and I can get Jeremy in here as well, and of course Gabby Gaudette's going to join us in a couple of minutes. Jeremy, and with Jim too, in terms of trying pick three and pick fours on limited budgets. One of the early questions at the beginning of the applet discussion was about ticket structure. And I suppose the easiest way to introduce the discussion is to ask, do you, on a small budget, are you absolutely obligated to find a single in the, as the key portion of the equation?
Not necessarily with the 50-cent minimums or the 20s at Hawthorne, because if you go 2x2, the old Noah's Ark route in a pick four, you're looking at 16 combinations. So for 50 cents, that's an $8 ticket. On the 20-cent, you're looking at a $3.20 ticket to go 2x2 over the course of those. So you don't need a single. For me personally, I play very few pick fours where I don't have a single, because my theory is this. If I'm looking at a 4-race sequence and there's not one horse in that 4 races that I really feel good about, it's probably not a pick four I want to play. I stick, the A, B, C, D, a lot of the ticket maker stuff that people talk about now, and it's kind of got in vogue to separate your contenders in the A's, the B's, and the C's. The A's being the ones you really think can win, the B's the kindas, and the C's the what-ifs. I say just limit yourself to the A's, and I think what you're going to find is your ticket of just the A's are going to look just like the professionals' tickets on the A's. You're just not going to have the B's and the C's and the what-ifs. And so if you're only playing your strongest opinion, that's what you have to do with the small bankroll. I hit the pick four the other day at Keeneland on a $3 ticket, 1x1 by 2x3. I had 2 horses I liked. We know the short fields at Keeneland and the favorites are coming in. You figure you get 2 favorites out of 4 in the sequence. That's not a great stretch. 2x3 in the other legs. You cashed $42 on a $3 ticket. It turned out to be 14-1, and you didn't have a single horse in there of any significant odds. So if you're a bigger player, why not play that $3 ticket 10 times for $30 versus spreading out for horses you don't really like as much? That's the way I've turned myself into being a pick 3, pick 4 player. I limit the combinations, and I bet more on those individual combinations when I like it more.
Jim.
Yeah, the other thing that you see, too, and that was one of our concerns, actually, Jeremy, when we were talking about going to these 20-cent minimums was, is handle going to drop substantially? And what we have found from talking to those players that do have a larger bankroll is they're doing exactly what you said. They'll take that 20-cent ticket, and then they'll play it 5 times, or they'll play it 10 times, and they'll go along that route. But for that smaller bankroll player, you're right. You can go 2 by 3 by 5 in a pick 3, and it's only going to cost you $6. And that's one of those things where you have coverage now for 3 races. And when people are talking about, okay, well, I'm going to throw $2 across the board on this horse, or I have 3 races of coverage, well, that's kind of what you're turning into, is bringing the interest in a little bit longer in the card too. I do prefer on a pick 4 to have a single in that mix, but on a pick 3, especially with the lower minimums, I don't have any concern if I have to spread a little bit.
What a quick point. Even if you're a more sophisticated player and you're listening tonight and you say, I'm not in that small bankroll field, I'm not into these 20s and 50 cents, still play them at 20 and 50 cents because you will avoid tax and withholding on so many combinations. I can't tell you how many 50-cent trifectas I hit that paid $450, that for $1 would have paid $900, and I would have lost, over a third of it to the federal government on withholding. So on tax day being tomorrow, my lesson is this. If they offer 20 or 50, play it for 20 or 50 and hit repeat as many times as you want.
Well, and
that's a very smart move. You see with the 10-cent super too nowadays. The 10-cent super has become the dollar super, just the 10 cent 10 times.
Well, and I would only say that. Jeremy, I kind of disagree on the exotic betting structure, the Steve Christ, the ABC structure, because with a budget, a limited budget, and especially in a circumstance the way, for instance, Hawthorne has got the 20-cent increment, you can leverage the money and the coverage much more effectively. And the fact that you're taking your A's and you're linking it with a C in those plays, and it's 20 cents. So from that standpoint, it's a very small percentage that you're protecting yourself on the best possible outcome, and you don't want to for that small amount of money that it takes to cover the seahorses with your A's. It's to me, it's very much worthwhile. And if I identify a horse that has an outside chance to win a race at a mammoth price, I am not going to just sit there and watch and say, well, all my most likelies have to win for me to be successful. If they do, yeah, I want to have that ticket a couple of times for $1.50 or $2, sure. But I want that coverage, and
and that can be the difference in handicappers. You go back and look at your results, because what I found with me personally was I wasn't hitting enough pick 4s, and when I was hitting them, they were small. And so to me, the only thing that was successful was when I had the right horses dialed in. So, for a different player who looks at races a little different, uses different products, different analytics, it may work for you that way. And that's why, the enterprise of keeping track of your results is so important, because I used to think I was a good pick 4 player, and I wasn't. I was playing 40 combinations in every pick 4, 1 by 2 by 4 by 5, something like that, and I wasn't hitting. So that's how I reevaluated, and it's worked for me. But for each person, to their own, absolutely. None of these things we talk about in night school, I think, are universal to every situation. So, I hope people learn from us. I hope they take some of the ideas and apply them to your own personality. That's why I say bet to your personality. If I lose because 3 C's won, it won't bother me. I never sweat money I didn't bet. That's my rule of thumb. If I didn't bet it, I'm not going to sweat it. So I'm not going to worry about horses I don't have on a ticket. But that's a hard lesson to learn. And for some people, the personality might be, I'm going to carry that with me for 2 days that I didn't throw that extra horse in. It's all to the individual.
Well, certainly for Jim Miller and those of you that are already Hawthorne fans, the resource that Jim provides, just outstanding. And be sure for Saturday coming up to be part of their biggest day, Illinois Derby Day. And I got to ask the most important question, Jim. Coming down Cicero Ave, the best Italian beef sandwich in the neighborhood.
He's Freddy's Italian beef for sure.
Which? Oh yeah.
For us, that's where we all go, is the Freddy's.
Okay, all right. I was very curious. Everybody's got their own favorite. Every neighborhood. Love it. Jim Miller, thank you so much, and we'll be watching and wagering come Saturday for Illinois Derby Day. I appreciate the visit.
All right, folks. Have a great night.
Jim Miller. And Jim does a terrific job. You can also hear him Saturdays with Dave Johnson and Bill Finley on Down the Stretch, always previewing the action at Hawthorne. And Illinois Derby Day, the biggest party there in Chicago, and certainly a great history in the Illinois Derby. They've got